The reason I chose these two for this interview is because they have such a fabulous attitude about life. They really do. Nothing seems to rattle them, and they just roll with the punches. And as the conversation goes on, you'll understand what I'm talking about, because they were up against quite a bit and just went, oh well. And so, it's a testament to the way we need to travel.
We met Annie because she put out a flyer about a night in Italy at her office. So we did meet with her later, and we told her what we were looking for and gave her a budget, and she met all of our needs. Oh, came to a night in Italy. There were some region discussions, and you had food from that region, and it was very pleasant. And so we went home, and my husband said, we need to do this. I am Italian, and my family is from the Adriatic coast, which is San Benedetto, and that is a place that is not one of the favorites of Italy, like Florence and Venice and Rome, Naples. So in her wisdom, she planned a wonderful trip. And
we had like 3 vacations in one.
Absolutely. So that's how we connected with Annie.
So we've got Claudette and Joe Fink, who came to me. I can't remember how, but I'm sure that you'll refresh my memory. But I do remember that it was an anniversary trip, and they also wanted to take your sister, if I remember correctly, and so they decided to combine a family trip with an anniversary trip. And so that was kind of fun to put that together. So that's how it all got started. So now that you've been back a year and you're reflecting, how do you think the process went? I'm always learning, and it's true. I'm always trying to figure out what's the best process and how can I streamline it and yet give the clients as much hand-holding and attention as possible.
I think one of the things was we wanted to go see her family. Her sister wanted to go down the Amalfi Coast. She wanted to see that section. And so we kind of threw that in. Can we go here? Can we go there? And then and end up in Rome, because that's where she was going to leave from. And then we asked you, we want to go to something different. And that's where it started. That's why we landed in Naples, went down to Siena, or in that area. We spent 2-3 days there, had a wonderful time, came back, had an exciting rail trip across the country, ended up in her family's hometown, rented a car. Have to say something about that. There are no driving laws in Italy, they're just suggestions. And everybody is a Mario brother. But nobody got hurt, there were no accidents. They were just like us going like this. But
You thought of everything, even the GPS.
Yeah, made sure we get a GPS, and we traveled all through San Benedetto, and we had a lovely B&B there, Villa Cricri.
It was wonderful. Everything was perfect.
Then we hopped the train, went back to Rome, spent 3 days there, and her sister left from Rome, and then we went to Tuscany and stayed at a farm. And agro-turismo, which is a pretty big deal up there. And we were in 14th century towns and traveled all around.
And having a car was an excellent idea because it gave you the freedom of doing everything. And you hooked us up with wonderful situations. It's one thing to go and travel on your own, but if you don't have a driver already scheduled and you don't have a train ticket already to go, that makes just life just so difficult. Your choices were excellent. And we kind of lived the Italian life. We didn't just go in a bus with 50 people and go to different areas. We went to their stores and we shopped around, and we met a whole bunch of people and took trains, and it just was we lived like an Italian for almost 3 weeks, and it was just well planned, and
Exciting.
very exciting.
We have friends who travel a lot more than we do, and when they found out we rented a car and drove in Italy, they're like, "You've got to be kidding me!" It's like, no.
What you just described, the trip you just described, is not for everyone, by the way.
It's true.
Just keep in mind that during the conversation we had, you guys shared with me your travels. And you told me about how other obscure places you've been to in difficult times, and you did it with a smile and with grace. And you went on to tell me all kinds of things, and mostly what I gleaned from that conversation was that you wanted to be among the people. And when you speak about that car, not everybody would I put in a car, because they have to drive into a city. The way it worked for you is that you picked that car up, if I remember correctly, at the airport when you dropped sister off.
Yeah.
And so you were already at the edge of town. You had drove in the countryside.
Yeah.
It was easy. Then when you drove back, you drove right to the airport, if I remember correctly. And so your trip was designed for you because of who you are and the kind of traveler you are. I can tell you that most of the people, I wouldn't design that trip like that for. But you're unique. You really are. And you have that adventurous spirit that I share. So I'm not afraid either. So I have to be very careful that the fact that I'm so fearless doesn't bleed into somebody who's fearful, and I can't put them in a situation where they're really uncomfortable.
It was just perfectly planned, and your choice of the wine tour and the place to stay, and Montepulciano was just wonderful, was just right on, and what an experience.
I wish I could suggest to people that this will not be your last trip to Italy. So many people who come to me say, I've always wanted to go to Italy, and this is going to be a trip of a lifetime, and I may never get back. And if you do that, then they want to do what I call the Holy Trinity of Italy. The Rome, Florence, Venice. The Venice, Florence, Rome. If you've been before, or if you're feeling that those cities don't appeal to you, then Montepulciano is a fabulous destination. But I can't put people there because they are like, I can't go there, I've got to go to Rome, or I've got to go to these other places. So it was fun for me to do. And if I'm working this hard, I'm going to have some of the fun too.
There's multitude of guides, but you picked the best. Our guide was an anthropology teacher, and also
He was a professor.
was a professor. We had the best
Spoke perfect
time.
English, and wasn't in a rush.
So all of your choices, from the drivers to the tours, was just perfect for us.
Okay, travel hint. They lost their luggage on our way to Naples, but we had our carry-on. And the good news was, we didn't have to worry about what to wear tomorrow. We just washed our underwear, hung them out, and our t-shirts, and went about our business.
But
we didn't have to worry.
And it just teaches you that how much do you need, which is going to definitely
Affect our next trip.
affect the next trip.
It was textbook the way you guys did it. It really, really was. And I ached for you, but then you were like, yeah, we're going off to Pompeii today.
But you were always available, and that was the security. No matter what happened, we knew that you were just a phone call away, and you would fix it. Your magic would just fix it, and that was the security. Because my Italian is very limited, so we really depended on you to solve any problems that we came about.
And what surprised you the most? We can do those two first. What
Okay,
surprised you the
Stuffed
most?
olives.
Pumping gas.
Fried stuffed olives. They're great.
Well,
big olives. Just on the lighter side. No, we ate everywhere. We ate everything, and had a great time. And some of the things were just outrageously great. They were like deep fried stuffed olives, and you got to pick what was stuffed with dates, with meat, with cheese, and they were all delicious.
The Italians take much pride in their food,
Yes.
and you don't mix any two foods on a plate.
Tell them the story.
Yeah, my cousin, I was putting two things on a plate, and that just was not the thing to do. Going to Tuscany was a wonderful experience because everywhere you looked on a hill, there was a medieval town. And even Marche, that's the province that my family's from, they have it as well. So Marche, besides being on the coast, is its own little Tuscany. And all those areas up there are so diverse, they have so much diversity, and love the trains, and it just was great.
An interesting thing was, no matter where we were, like on a train, the three of us would be sitting there, would be talking, and somebody would hear we spoke English, and they would come over and try and help translate for us automatically. It was like, oh, I speak English a little bit. And we're just, we got lost on the way over because we didn't pay attention. And this one gentleman came over and said, we passed our stop. We were supposed to get off and change. And he said, oh, don't worry. And we got to this next place on our way down to Barry, which is way wrong. He ran into the train station, got us switched over immediately to the next train, and we made it to San Benedetto 20 minutes later. It was just by chance, but everybody there was so cordial and accepting.
I don't know how you picked all the B&B in San Benedetto, but it was so wonderful. And the view, the people, I mean, we're still on Facebook with Angelica, and everything was perfect.
We're still sharing some of their culture.
The surprising thing is, when you go to a gas pump, you put your credit card in. It automatically, our credit card automatically totaled up $100 or €100. Then you have to figure out how to get the gas out. And that was an experience. And we mastered it out of
We also gave a couple bikers like plenty of extra gas
there
because
you
we
go.
couldn't fit it all in.
But also, like, we take for granted parking meters, and that's
Yeah.
a whole different ball game over there, which we experienced in Siena. Thank you very much for signing us up for this cooking class. We made a Florence ravioli, which is made with potatoes and parsley. And it was fabulous. They were so meticulous. It was us and another couple from DC. And they went through the steps quite slowly, had everyone participate. We also made biscotti at the end. At this wonderful agro-tourism, there were maybe 8 couples, and that night they served us dinner all together. That was the first time we had a formal dinner, and they had that for dinner, the ravioli that we made, plus other entrees. But it was such a neat experience, and they took their time, and it was wonderful. Now the wine tour, we were the only ones that showed up, so we had our own driver who was very, very good. We went to the Chianti area, and we tasted wine, and that's where we met our friend from France, and also went to a place for lunch, and that was the first time I had fava beans, and everything that was there was just lovely. And he took us up to the orchard, and we took a video of him explaining everything, and it was little tidbits like, we don't water them artificially because we don't know what we're introducing into the wine.
Also, the educational system in Italy, in Europe in general, is so different. Like, he went to school for wine, for grapes, for agriculture, for so many different aspects of it. He was very, very knowledgeable. We stopped. He told us what flowers were what, because Claudette saw some pretty flowers on the side. He'd pull over, and showed us how things grew, and explained that he went to school to do this, hopefully to work for a vineyard, which he never could get a job at, so he was doing this, but he was completely well versed in the whole process and how everything was done.
Agritourism is a big industry in Italy. I don't know that it's an industry anywhere else. I would like to think it was. But when I say it's an industry, it's not just that they have agriculture like we would have here in the United States. This is an educational opportunity to bring people in and to teach them through experience what goes on. So when you get into agritourism, and I have a fabulous guide in Luca, and all she does is artisan, and because the bread makers, the cheese makers, the sausage, the wines, of course, the lemons, the citrus, the olives, the balsamic vinegars, all of those things, and they know about the flowers, and they know about the land, and they know about this water. And then what they've done is they've opened up these farms that have been just sort of run down, and they've renovated them, then turned these into darling inns that, by the way, is not for everyone. I can name a few people that I would never put there because they would be calling me at 2 in the morning going, what the hell? You know, but it's the perfect place for somebody like me or like you. So I applaud Italy because they embrace their culture and they share their culture and they are passionate about it, and when you come away you feel like you are, there's no way you go to Italy once. No way. Not ever going to happen. When I get a phone call, right now it's usually a return client or referral, and that means that I know who they were referred by, so I already know something. So, but I start the interview process by finding out where do you want to go, who's going, what time of the year do you want to go, and then I go and ask about, ask them questions that will pull information out of them. Like, what do you do when you're not working? What's fun for you? Are you a golfer? Are you a photographer? Do you like, when most of the time people will say, well, we love food and wine. Well, to what extent do you love food and wine? Do you cook for a party, or do you cook for yourself? And so you start getting this information, and then you find out a little bit more about, are you a 5-star St. Regis, or are you, a bed and breakfast? I'm very clear about, do you want to be in the city? Because there are city folks. I'm a Paris girl. I love Paris. But I also enjoy the countryside. If you go into the countryside, as some folks do, you have to know that you're isolated. If you're going to a villa or an agritourism property, you need a car. People say, oh, well, I want a villa, we all want to go on a villa and we want to stay there. Well, you have to have a car, and you have to know that you're going to be running people, driving all the time. So you start figuring out what they're willing to do and what they're not. Are you interested in museums and art and culture? That's one thing. Then you go to the city. Then if you're interested in wine and food, and I really want to know the people, and I really want to get my, get into the nitty gritty of what this culture is about, because, by the way, it's very different in the north, in the middle, and in the south, and that's what we talked about at that event. And so I start to sift and sort. Oh, you belong here, you belong here, you belong in. At the end of it, I know, or I get a sense that this is an anniversary trip, for example. I want them to have a romantic but interesting experience. Now, a romantic experience for a 20, 30-year-old, 40-year-old is different. It's a different experience. And so you take age into it. You take, what their experiences are. What have they already done? And then you start to kind of get a sense. And And when you say something like, well, you know, I could have you driving a Lamborghini or I could have you hunting for truffle, you figure out which one lights their eyes up. And as soon as you see that eyes light up, then you get a clue, oh, we're going this direction. What makes a trip not stressful is plenty of what I call freedom days. And that means that you're not over-structured. You don't have every single day mapped out. What it means is you have the opportunity, if you met somebody on a train or on a tour and they said, oh my gosh, you've got to go here, you could say, oh yeah, we could do that on Tuesday. It also means that you go off and find your own adventure. What makes a trip stressful is over-structuring, not enough time in between, packing it in. People say to me, well, I'll spend a couple of days. We even started with this, we'll have 3 nights in Tuscany. 3 nights is 2 days. 3 nights is not 3 days. So if you want 3 days, then we're talking about 4 nights. We ended up with 5 nights, and they had a really good experience because they had elbow room.
I did most of the work because she works and I'm retired, so I was the one who came over to the office most often. But she made if you're going to go to Tuscany 2 nights, no, let's look at this and this, and the whole trip was that way and she explained, you're going to get into Rome at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, your day's shot. You got to find your hotel, put your and then start the next day. And
Wiggle room.
Yeah, wiggle room in order so you don't jump in and get off the bus and go see something, get back on the bus and go to your room. And it just worked out perfectly.
We had a whole day for Pompeii, Herculaneum. We even had lunch on Mount Vesuvio. So, I mean, that's an entire day devoted to one thing, and that was very unstressful. And
so I've heard all about your trip, and I mean, there's just got to be more and more details that I'm dying to hear. But I haven't heard about any weird food or anything like. Did you have anything that was really strange on this trip? I mean, besides the stuffed olives.
on our return from Tuscany to Rome to leave, we drove down the coast to San Marinella along the beach, and it was just lovely. And so we got the menu, and Joe had
Fried squid.
and I had grilled squid, something you never want to attempt in your whole lifetime. It looked like a square piece of plastic, and
Tasted.
I didn't care what it tasted like. When you're hungry, you salt it and eat it. The accommodations at Vico Equenza and San Benedetto, Rome, and Tuscany were just perfect. All different and all perfect for our needs, and
Except for,
it was just great.
so you're not going to get the squid again?
No, I'm not going to
Okay.
get this.
And one of the things that I feel strongly about, and you guys have really driven it home, is that when you travel, and this is what we need to teach the parents and grandparents, is that we really need the children to travel. Because it is not a vacation, it's an education. We've talked a little bit about this before. But when you know that you have somebody there, you're helping them through the Vatican. When you're standing in line, when you have somebody helping you at the pump, when you can help somebody else, what happens is that the world becomes friendlier and we become more human. And when we can get our kids and grandchildren to recognize that that's why you travel, is to teach unity